Hello, it is another time on the Indigenous Hands, the Indigenous Voices, which is brought to you by Save the Deaf and Endangered Languages Initiative. Today, we want to discuss the topic Emergence of Sign Languages in Indigenous Deaf Communities. Have you wondered how sign languages come about? Have you wondered how they develop? I know that from our experiences of documenting indigenous sign languages in the deaf communities, some sign language users do not know that sign languages develop, emerge from among deaf communities, especially in the indigenous communities. So today we are discussing the emergence of sign languages in the indigenous deaf communities, because we know that a lot of people hold the view that sign languages are foreign, are given, or created, or something, and this has been part of the ideas we've been trying to correct. And we believe that you are going to enjoy this topic today, as it is going to be handled by Mary Edward. She is going to be talking from the perspective of Adamorobe Sign Language as an example of indigenous sign language. I will not waste any much time, and I'm gonna bring Mary Edward to the stage.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Edward, and I'm here once again with your favorite program on Indigenous Sign Languages, Indigenous Hands, and Indigenous Voices. And today I'm here to talk about the emergence of sign languages, and I want to use Adamorobe as my case study. But I'll also give examples from other sign languages around the world and how those sign languages emerged. So, one, a disclaimer: sign languages are not ad hoc gestures. Sign languages are full fledged human languages that fulfill the communication needs of the people. It has all the features of a full fledged language. It is productive, it is transmitted from culture to culture, new signs are created every time, and it has structures that are both iconic and arbitrary. Iconic means there is form, meaning, resemblance mapping, and arbitrary means the signs do not tell you the meaning. Okay, so looking at how sign languages emerge, there are different ways in which a sign language can emerge. Basically, we'll look at two today. One is the fact that a group of unrelated deaf people can be brought together in an educational setting, like a school, and there these different deaf people will introduce their different home sign languages, and this will grow up to become the sign language. A perfect example of this is the Nicaraguan Sign Language, which emerged because different groups of deaf students were brought to one particular place to be educated. The mode of education wasn't to use sign language, they were to be taught with speech. But as these people stayed together for a very long time, each of them brought their home sign, and together it developed a sign language that is being used. The first cohort or the first generation sign wasn't very structured as compared to the Nicaraguan Sign Language we have now, which means as the language emerged, it picked up other grammatical features, including the grammar of the face, the grammar of the body, the use of syntactic and topographic space, and all that. Don't worry about those big terms. We'll explain them in the course of our videos if you keep watching our videos. So that is one way. And the other way is in a village where two or more deaf people meet and interact. These people can also have their own unique sign language emerging as a result of their interaction. And this is exactly what happened with Adamorobe Sign Language. So there are several stories regarding the emergence of Adamorobe Sign Language. There are stories about witches, about gods, about warriors, about so many things. So These six stories, you can find summary of them in the works of Victoria Nest or Annalise Kustes. They quote other people who have recorded some of these stories. And what are these stories? So there is a story about a deaf warrior who every deaf person wanted to be, every hearing lady wanted to be with because he was strong and mighty. There's another story of a river that has certain taboos associated to it. So if you go to that river on the days that you're not supposed to go, obviously you'll be cursed and you have deaf children. But not considering those stories, we are looking at a language that has emerged over a period of years, because as Adamorobe Sign Language is believed to have emerged in the 18th century. And obviously, it started with one or two deaf people, and that has progressed over the course of the years to be used as a sign language in an entire community, used by both deaf and hearing people. Adamorobe Sign Language has grown from just being a language between two deaf people to talk about simple items, to be a well-structured, meaningful language that is very capable of talking about different things. Now, Adamorobe Sign Language has been studied extensively and widely. The grammar has been studied, some aspects of the discourse functions have been studied, and what is found? It is seen as a unique sign language, which also has its own mode using the hands, the face, and the body. It has a unique signing space as compared to many sign languages used in the city, but very similar to sign languages used in the villages, like the Katakalok sign language. Adamorobe Sign Language has a signing space of the face, the shoulder, the front of the body, and some signs are actually realized on the knees and others are on the toes, like counting higher numbers. So that is an emergence of an indigenous African sign language. There are lots of stories surrounding the possible genetic defects in Adamorobe, that a group of health professionals visited the village in the early 70s and recommended that there is a deaf gene, and that when two deaf people marry, there's a high risk of having a deaf child. This new finding led to the promulgation of what we call the marriage law. That will be for another talk or another presentation. But Adamorobe Sign Language is not ad hoc gestures. It's a sign language that has emerged over a course of time to be used as a mode of communication between deaf people and between deaf and hearing signers. It is unique. It is different from other sign languages used across the world. It is different from Ghanaian Sign Language, but we can see that it's more similar to other village sign languages. Furthermore, Adamorobe Sign Language is still a growing sign language, which means it's possible that the structure of Adamorobe Sign Language can change in the near future, because as you've seen in the previous videos, deaf children are being educated in Ghanaian Sign Language, and even deaf adults are introducing structures of Ghanaian Sign Language into Adamorobe Sign Language. So we thank you for watching this video. We'll come your way once again with another interesting video about indigenous sign languages across Africa. Don't go far. See you again. Stay safe. Bye.
I would say that the emergence of sign languages is one of those very interesting topics in sign language linguistics. It's also an interesting topic for language generally, because it's not one of those topics that emerge out of one theory or the other, but one of those topics that emerged out of a practical example. a very practical example, as Mary mentioned, is the birth of a new language in Nicaragua, which happened in the 1980s. And so prior to now, many of us from the African continent did not know that sign languages are things, are languages that emerge from deaf communities. Even up to now, like I mentioned earlier, many sign language users do not know that. So it is important to us to discuss this topic today, and I appreciate Mary for handling this topic so intelligently. And so we have heard the two primary ways that sign languages can emerge. And another point to this is to talk about the early sign language access of for deaf children, because home signs are possible when the families enable the deaf child to develop sign language, develop home signs. It may not be a conscious effort. It may not be what the families will sit the deaf child down to do. It is just giving that deaf child the enabling environment to express himself or herself. It is very important, because when a deaf child has some kind of access to home sign, that might be part of the contribution that will result into the emergence of a communal sign language. We have in the past, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this, we are aware of some schools today. I know of some in Lagos that still practices oralism and brags about it, how they are teaching the deaf children to speak, and conducting speech therapy and or whatnot. This is not encouraging. This is not good, because you are officially defrauding the families of these deaf children and defrauding the deaf child himself, because you are depriving the deaf child a fundamental linguistic human right. Because at the end of the day, sign language is going to be far away from this deaf child. So parents that are patronizing schools that forbid deaf children from signing, it is a terrible thing still happening in the 21st century, and we want to discourage you from doing that. Both parents, families, please give access to your deaf child to sign language as as early as you can. The child may have passed 5 years, but try as much as you can to allow the child to have access to sign language. Your child is not going to be more deaf from signing or less deaf from not signing, because if your child is deaf, if he is deaf and he belongs to a community, and that community uses sign language, and sign language that they use emerges from their community, and this emergence happens when there is a constant communication, signing communication amongst deaf people. They develop their signs, and just like words and expressions, spoken words and expressions develop. So that is what Mary has helped us to understand today. So we appreciate you, and we also thank you for watching our videos today. Keep watching us on Indigenous Hands, the Indigenous Voices, and we will continue to do this as much as we've got the grace to do it. All right, see you next week on a very fresh topic, a new series I'm going to be running. Bye.